Hello everyone, and welcome to the Saiyan What Ifs. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku became Time's Guardian. But before we start, I want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Mantle of Kronos. Golden light splintered across the void as Kronos fell to one knee. His ancient armor cracking under the pressure of the temporal anomaly. 6 millennia of guardianship hadn't prepared him for this, a fracture so vast it threatened to collapse the walls between all possible timelines. Blood trickled from his nose, evaporating into shimmering dust before it could fall. The price of holding back oblivion. This ends now, he whispered, his voice echoing strangely as it bounced between moments that existed simultaneously. Kronos closed his eyes, focusing his remaining power. His consciousness expanded outward through the intricate web of reality, searching for his successor, the one soul in all of existence with the perfect combination of strength, purity, and adaptability. He needed someone whose power rivaled God's yet whose heart remained uncorrupted. Someone who could be trusted with the ultimate authority, the protection of time itself. His awareness shot through countless possibilities, discarding candidates by the millions until finally. There you are, he smiled. With the last of his strength, Kronos cast his essence toward his chosen successor while plunging his staff into the heart of the fracture. Light erupted from the point of impact, a miniature Big Bang that condensed the Guardian's entire existence into a single purpose, sealing the breach with his life force. The mantle passes to you now, Kronos whispered as his physical form dissolved into crystalline fragments. Protect them all. The fracture sealed with a thunderous implosion that echoed across every timeline at once, a moment of perfect silence followed by the resumption of time's steady flow. Son Goku blocked Vegeta's punch by a hair's breadth, the force of the impact sending ripples through the air around them. Their training session had intensified over the last hour, pushing both Saiyans to their limits. Sweat poured down Goku's face as he countered with a flurry of strikes, moving so quickly that only the ages remained visible to normal perception. You're holding back again, Kakarot, Vegeta growled, his golden Super Saiyan aura flaring with irritation. Goku grinned, his own aura pulsing in response. Just warming up, he teleported behind Vegeta, launching a kick that the Saiyan Prince barely managed to block. The sky above them was a perfect blue, the gravity chamber's external simulation creating ideal training conditions. Below, the rolling fields surrounding Capsule Corporation stretched to the horizon. It was a rare moment of peace. No universe-threatening villains, no tournaments with existence at stake. Just two warriors honing their craft. When the first temporal tremor hit, only Goku noticed it, a strange sensation like déjà vu, but stronger. He hesitated mid-punch, his fist stopping an inch from Vegeta's face. What's wrong with you? Vegeta demanded, not lowering his guard. Did you feel that? Goku's eyes scanned the horizon. Feel what? Your pathetic excuse for a punch. The second tremor rippled through reality with greater force. This time, both Saiyans felt it, a wave of wrongness that momentarily caused the world around them to blur like watercolors in rain. Something's happening, Goku said, his playfulness vanishing. Before Vegeta could respond, a third tremor struck, powerful enough to temporarily separate the color from their surroundings. For 3 heartbeats, they stood in a world rendered in grayscale, their own bodies the only sources of color. Kakarot, Vegeta began, but his words died as he watched his rival's expression change. Goku's eyes widened, focusing on something invisible to everyone else. Golden light reflected in his pupils, forming intricate patterns that resembled clockwork. His body went rigid, hovering several inches off the ground. Goku, Vegeta shouted, rushing forward only to be repelled by an invisible barrier. Inside the cocoon of light, Goku experienced something beyond words. Information flooded his consciousness, billions of timelines, countless alternate histories, the delicate web of cause and effect that formed the structure of reality itself. And alongside this knowledge came understanding. Kronos was dead. The guardian of time had fallen. And somehow, impossibly, Goku had been chosen as his successor. No, he whispered, overwhelmed by the responsibility. I'm just a fighter. A gentle voice answered from within the light. A fighter with a pure heart who has saved your universe multiple times. The multiverse needs your strength now. Asterisk. But my family, my friends. Time flows differently for the Guardian. You can still protect them, and so much more. Asterisk. The light intensified, and Goku felt himself being pulled away, not physically, but temporally, sliding sideways through reality toward a place that existed outside conventional time. Vegeta, he called out, reaching toward his friend who was now frantically trying to break through the barrier. Tell everyone I'll be back. Tell Chi-Chi. The connection severed before he could finish. Gravity, space, and time reconfigured around him as Goku was drawn across the boundaries of reality toward the Chronos Nexus, the eternal citadel of Time's guardian. The journey lasted an instant and an eternity simultaneously. Goku tumbled through a kaleidoscope of possibilities, glimpses of lives never lived, choices never made, worlds never born. He saw versions of himself that had chosen different paths, one where he'd remained on Earth as a child, another where he'd embraced his Saiyan heritage and conquered planets alongside Raditz. Countless iterations where small differences created vastly divergent outcomes. He emerged gasping into a vast crystalline chamber that defied conventional architecture. Pillars of translucent material rose hundreds of feet toward a ceiling that reflected the cosmos itself. The floor beneath him rippled like water with each step yet supported his weight. Along the walls, countless viewing portals displayed different eras and realities, some showing familiar faces, others completely alien worlds. This is the Heart Chamber, announced a melodious voice with an undercurrent of steel. The nexus point from which the Guardian monitors all timelines. Goku turned to find a woman watching him with ancient eyes. Her appearance was youthful, petite with distinctive lavender hair that defied gravity almost as much as a Saiyan's, but something about her presence suggested immense age. She wore ornate robes in shades of blue and purple, adorned with symbols that seemed to shift when viewed directly. "Who are you?" Goku asked, automatically dropping into a defensive stance. "And where am I?" "I am Chronoa, last of the Kaioshin of time," she replied, her tone formal yet tinged with skepticism as she assessed him. "And you stand in the Chronos Nexus, the citadel that exists outside conventional time and space. The question, Son Goku, is why you are here when Chronos himself show LDB returning from sealing the southern fracture." Goku straightened, scratching the back of his head in his characteristic gesture. I think he died. There was this golden light, and suddenly I knew all these things about timelines and guardians, and then I was pulled here." Chronoa's expression shifted from skepticism to alarm. With a flick of her wrist, she activated one of the larger viewing portals, which displayed the aftermath of Chronos' sacrifice, a stabilized temporal boundary where the fracture had been, and the lingering particles of the former Guardian's essence. "Impossible," she whispered, her composed demeanor cracking. "Chronos has stood guard for 6,000 years. He cannot fall. He cannot." The viewing portal shifted, replaying the Guardian's final moments, including his deliberate selection of Goku as successor. Chronoa watched in stunned silence, her hands trembling slightly. "You," she finally said, turning to face Goku. "He chose you, a mortal Saiyan with no temporal training." Goku frowned. "Hey, I didn't ask for this. One minute I was sparring with Vegeta, and the next I'm being pulled across, whatever this place is. This place is the foundation of all reality." Chronoa responded sharply. "The Chronos Nexus exists at the crossroads of every timeline, every possible history. From here, the Guardian of Time preserves the integrity of the multiverse, prevents paradoxes from unraveling existence, and ensures the proper flow of causality." She circled Goku, studying him with increasing disbelief. "And somehow, Chronos believed you capable of this responsibility. A warrior who has never demonstrated the slightest understanding of temporal mechanics." "Look," Goku said, his natural confidence asserting itself, "I don't know why I was chosen. But if there's a threat to my friends or family, to anyone who needs protection, I won't back down. If that means becoming this Guardian of Time, then I'll do what needs to be done." Before Chronoa could respond, alarms echoed throughout the chamber. Dozens of viewing portals flared red simultaneously, displaying various timelines experiencing disruptions. "What's happening?" Goku asked, instantly alert. Chronoa rushed to the central dais, her hands dancing over controls that appeared in the air before her. The power vacuum. Without Chronos, the temporal barriers are weakening. Anomalies are breaking through, including ones he previously contained. One portal expanded, showing a familiar figure that made Goku's blood run cold. Perfect Cell, but not as he remembered. This version radiated power far beyond what Goku had faced. Behind him lay the broken bodies of the Z fighters. That's Cell, but different, Goku said, stepping closer. A variant from timeline designation XJ27. Chronoa explained grimly. In this reality, Cell achieved his perfect form much earlier and absorbed additional biomass from other powerful beings. Chronos quarantined this T-meline to prevent cross-temporal contamination, but the quarantine is failing. The portal showed Cell looking up, almost as if sensing their observation. A sinister smile spread across his face. Interesting, the bio-android said to the sky. I can feel it now, pathways to other worlds. Other versions of myself to absorb. Other powers to claim. He's becoming aware of the multiverse, Chronoa whispered. Horror creeping into her voice. If a being of his power learns to traverse timelines. Goku didn't need her to finish the thought. A multiversal perfect cell would be a catastrophe beyond imagination. Without hesitation, he stepped onto the dais. Send me there. You cannot simply. Chronoa began. There's no time to argue. Goku interrupted, his expression hardening into the focused determination that had faced down gods and demons alike. You said I'm supposed to be the new guardian. Well, I'm starting now. Show me how to get there. For a moment, Chronoa seemed prepared to argue further. But another alarm sounded as the viewing portal showed Cell beginning to tear at the fabric of his reality, creating a small rift. Very well, she conceded, reaching into her robe. To withdraw a slender staff topped with an hourglass. Take the Chrono Scepter. It will allow you to return here once the threat is neutralized. Her eyes narrowed. But understand this, you cannot change the core events of an established timeline. Your role is containment, not alteration. Goku accepted the staff, feeling a surge of temporal energy connect with his ki. What exactly does that mean? It means you cannot save those who have already fallen in that timeline, she explained, her voice softening slightly. Focus only on preventing Cell from breaching the barriers between worlds. The information stung, but Goku nodded. I understand. How do I visualize your destination while channeling your energy through the scepter? Chronoa instructed. Your newfound connection to the timestream will do the rest. Goku gripped the scepter firmly, focusing on the image of the alternate Cell. The crystal at the staff's center began to glow, resonating with his ki. Reality bent around him, folding like origami until he could step through the created passage. Wait, Chronoa called before he vanished. There's something else you should know about becoming the Guardian. Goku paused at the threshold. Once you channel the full power of the Guardian, she said gravely, there's no returning to your old life. The mantle changes you forever. Goku absorbed this, then gave her a small smile. One problem at a time. With that, he stepped through the portal, vanishing from the Chronos nexus. Chronoa stared at the empty space where he had stood, her ancient eyes troubled. Chronos, she whispered to her fallen colleague, what were you thinking? The transition between realities hit Goku like a physical blow. Unlike instant transmission, which moved him through space instantaneously, temporal travel dragged his consciousness through layers of reality, bombarding his senses with fragments of what might have been and what could still be. He materialized on a battlefield, or what remained of one. The landscape of Earth had been transformed into a hellscape of craters and fissures. The sky burned an unnatural crimson, thick with smoke and energy residue. At the center of the devastation stood Perfect Cell, his aura now shot through with tendrils of temporal energy as he methodically widened the rift he had discovered. Come on, the bio-android muttered, just a little more. Goku assessed the situation quickly. The bodies of this timeline's defenders lay scattered across the battlefield, Piccolo, Krillin, Vegeta, Trunks, and even Gohan, all fallen. Their key signatures were completely extinguished. Only Tien still showed signs of life, barely clinging to consciousness several hundred yards away. Cell hadn't noticed him yet, too focused on the temporal rift. This gave Goku precious seconds to formulate a strategy. His first instinct was to power up immediately to Super Saiyan Blue, but something told him to wait. The Chrono Scepter in his hand pulsed. almost as if offering an alternative. What did Chronos mean about the Guardian's power? He wondered. Following his instincts, Goku channeled a fraction of his ki into the scepter. Immediately, information flooded his consciousness, not just knowledge but muscle memory, as if he had trained in temporal combat for centuries. He understood, suddenly, that time itself could be a weapon in the hands of its guardian. Cell sensed the energy shift and turned, his perfect features registering first surprise, then sadistic delight. Son Goku, he purred. How unexpected. I believed I had eliminated you already. His eyes narrowed. But you're different somehow. From another timeline, perhaps. How fascinating. Goku kept his expression neutral, continuing to channel energy in to the scepter while monitoring Cell's movements. Step away from the rift, Cell. The bio-android laughed. Or what? You'll defeat me. Your counterpart in this world tried that, with predictably fatal results. He gestured toward a distant crater where another body lay. In fact, I believe I'll add you to my collection as well. A matching set. Cell moved with blinding speed, appearing before Goku with his palm thrust forward, ready to fire a point-blank energy blast. But Goku wasn't there, not because he had dodged, but because he had momentarily slipped between seconds, existing in the infinite simul pause between one moment and the next. To Cell, it appeared as if Goku had vanished and reappeared 10 feet away. Instant transmission. Cell snarled. It won't save you. Not exactly, Goku replied, a small smile playing at his lips as he continued exploring his new abilities. Cell attacked again, launching into a complex series of strikes that would have overwhelmed most opponents. But with each attack, Goku slipped between moments, making microscopic adjustments to his position in time rather than space. To an observer, he appeared to be predicting Cell's moves with impossible accuracy. Countering before the bio-android had even committed to an attack. Frustration built in Cell's expression. Stand still and fight properly. I am fighting, Goku replied, landing a powerful blow to Cell's midsection that sent the creature staggering back. Just not in a way you understand. Cell roared, his aura exploding outward as he ascended to his full power. The bio-android's body began to transform, growing additional armor plates and spikes as he drew on the unique abilities of everyone he had absorbed in this timeline. Let's see how your tricks hold up against this. A barrage of energy blasts erupted from Cell's palms, hundreds of deadly projectiles filling the air. Goku raised the Chrono Scepter, channeling more power through it. The blasts didn't stop. Instead, they slowed, their velocity decreasing until they hung suspended in midair like deadly ornaments. Cell's eyes widened in genuine shock. What? Goku stepped carefully through the frozen energy field, his expression serene but determined. With each step, he accelerated his own time frame, moving faster relative to the slowed projectiles. To Cell, it appeared as if Goku was phasing through solid energy. Impossible, the bio-android whispered. Nothing's impossible, Goku countered, suddenly appearing directly before Cell. Just improbable. The punch he delivered contained not just physical force but temporal energy, a strike that impacted Cell across multiple moments simultaneously. The bio-android's perfect form rippled with the damage, internal systems faltering as they experience failure states from possible futures all at once. Cell screamed, the sound distorting as his very existence fluctuated. He staggered backward, green blood trickling from his mouth. What have you done to me? He gasped. I showed you a glimpse of what happens when you tamper with time, Goku answered, his voice calm but carrying an authority he'd never possessed before. Now step away from the rift. Instead of complying, Cell's expression contorted with rage. If I can't have the multiverse, he snarled, then this world dies with me. His body began to swell, the telltale sign of his LF destruct sequence initiating, but accelerated and enhanced by the temporal energy he had absorbed. No you don't. Goku lunged forward, but Cell had already created a barrier of compressed time around himself, making him untouchable during his countdown. 20 seconds, Goku, Cell taunted. And this explosion won't just destroy the planet, it'll shatter this entire timeline. How does it feel, knowing you've failed across multiple realities? Goku's mind raced. He could use instant transmission to take Cell somewhere remote, but the temporal barrier prevented him from making contact. The Explosion would indeed be catastrophic. He could sense the destructive potential building, far greater than what his original timeline's cell had generated. The chrono scepter pulsed in his hand, offering a solution. 10 seconds. Cell continued, his body now grotesquely inflated. Any last words? Goku planted the scepter into the ground and channeled everything he had into it, not just his ki, but his determination. His sense of justice, his need to protect. Golden light erupted from his body as he accessed the true power of the Guardian for the first time. Time. Lock, he shouted. A wave of golden energy expanded outward from the scepter, enveloping Cell in a perfect sphere of frozen time. Within the sphere, the bio-android was caught in stasis, his self-destruct sequence neither advancing nor retreating. Locked in a moment that would never progress. Goku fell to one knee, the exertion of manipulating time at such a fundamental level draining him momentarily. The sphere containing Cell glowed with an inner light, hovering several feet above the ground. Is he dead? Came a weak voice. Goku turned to find this timeline's Tien had dragged himself closer, barely conscio us but determined to understand what had happened. No, Goku answered honestly. He's frozen in time, a single moment extended infinitely. He'll never explode, never die, but also never threaten anyone again. Tien's eyes widened. How did you? You're not our Goku, are you? Not exactly, Goku confirmed, standing and approaching the temporal rift that Cell had been widening. It pulsed with unstable energy, threatening to tear further at any moment. Raising the chrono scepter once more, Goku focused on the techniques that had been imparted to him. The rift's edges began to knit together as he carefully manipulated the time stream, guiding the damaged reality back toward stability. Are you some kind of god now? Tien asked, watching in awe. Goku smiled sadly, looking around at the fallen warriors, his friends in another life. No, just someone trying to do the right thing. He completed sealing the rift, then turned back to Tien. I can't stay, and I can't bring them back. That's not how this works. Tien's expression hardened with grief. Then what was the point? We still lost everything. But your world survives, Goku replied gently. And Cell won't threaten anyone else across the multiverse. He hesitated, then added, there are still Dragon Balls on New Namek in this timeline. Don't give up hope. The realization dawned on Tien's face, a possibility he hadn't considered in his despair. Before he could respond, Goku stepped back and raised the scepter. Good luck, he said, channeling energy to return to the Chronos Nexus. As reality bent around him, he took one last look at the suspended Cell, a monument to what happens when power exists without responsibility. Goku materialized in the heart chamber to find Chronoa monitoring several viewing portals simultaneously. Her expression a mixture of surprise and grudging respect. You contained him, she stated, watching as various timelines stabilized following Cell's imprisonment. And you used a time lock. That's an advanced technique even Chronos rarely employed. Goku set down the scepter, feeling the drain of his first temporal battle. It seemed like the right move. I couldn't let him explode. And I couldn't touch him through his barrier. Most new Guardians would have attempted to reverse time or create an alternate branch, Chronoa observed, studying him curiously. But you preserved the timeline's integrity while neutralizing the threat. Perhaps Chronos wasn't completely misguided in his choice. Thanks, I think. Goku stretched, working out the stiffness in his muscles. So that's what being the Guardian means. Jumping between timelines, fixing problems. Chronoa approached one of the larger viewing portals, expanding it to show a three-dimensional map of the multiverse, countless threads of light interconnecting in patterns too complex for most minds to comprehend. Being Guardian means maintaining the delicate balance between all possible realities, she explained. Some threats come from external forces, like Cell attempting to breach barriers. Others arise from temporal paradoxes, causality loops, or critical divergence points where reality itself becomes unstable. She turned to face him directly. The mantle of the Guardian grants tremendous power, but also tremendous responsibility. You cannot simply protect your friends or your native timeline. You must safeguard all of existence, often making decisions that seem cruel or unfair from a limited perspective. Goku frowned, considering this. Like not being able to save those who had already died in Cell's timeline. Precisely. The established events of a timeline are fixed points. Changing them creates fractures that can threaten the entire multiverse. Your duty is to preserve the integrity of time itself, even when individual outcomes seem unjust. The weight of the responsibility settled on Goku's shoulders. This was different from his previous roles as Earth's defender or Universe 7's champion. The scope was vaster, the consequences more profound, and the rules more constraining in some ways. I never asked to be the guardian, he said quietly. No one ever does, Chronoa replied, her tone softening. The mantle chooses those who have the necessary qualities, strength of body, purity of heart, and adaptability of mind. Chronos saw something in you that made him believe you could handle this burden. She hesitated, then added, but the choice remains yours. The mantle has been offered, not forced upon you. You could reject it and return to your timeline. And if I do that? Goku asked, already suspecting the answer. Then the multiverse remains vulnerable. Without a guardian, the barriers between timelines will continue to weaken. Events like what you just prevented with Cell will multiply. Eventually, reality itself could unravel. Goku walked to one of the viewing portals, which showed his own timeline, Chi-Chi preparing dinner, Gohan studying, Goten and Trunks sparring under Piccolo's watchful eye. They hadn't yet realized he was missing. Perhaps in his native timeline, only minutes had passed despite his hours in the Chronos Nexus. Would I ever see them again? He asked, his hand reaching out to touch the image of his family. Time flows differently for the Guardian, Chronoa explained. You could return periodically, but your presence would be limited. The needs of the multiverse must come first. Goku closed his eyes, wrestling with the decision. Throughout his life, he had accepted increasing levels of responsibility, from protecting Earth to saving Universe 7 in the Tournament of Power. Each step had required sacrifices, time away from his loved ones, dedicating himself to training and fighting. But this was different. This was a permanent position, a fundamental change to his existence. And yet, if he refused, who would protect everything he cared about from multiversal threats? The viewing portal showing his family flickered suddenly, the image distorting. Alarm bells rang throughout the chamber. What's happening? Goku demanded, instantly alert. Chronoa rushed to the controls. Another breach, this one directly threatening your native timeline. Her hands flew over the temporal interface. The time lock you placed on Cell created ripples. Someone, or something, is attempting to capitalize on the instability. The portal cleared, revealing a cloaked figure standing atop Kami's lookout. Energy pulsed from their hands, tearing open a small rift similar to what Cell had attempted. Through the rift, shadowy creatures began to emerge. Who is that? Goku asked, already reaching for the Chrono Scepter. Unknown, Chronoa replied grimly. But they're using advanced temporal manipulation techniques. This could be the first move in a larger attack. Goku's decision crystallized in that moment. His family, his friends, his entire reality was under threat, and he possessed the power to defend not just them, but all timelines. How could he choose otherwise? I accept, he said firmly. I'll become the Guardian. Chronoa's eyes widened slightly. You understand what this means. The changes it will bring to you. The isolation. The responsibility. I understand enough, Goku replied, gripping the scepter with newfound determination. I know I'm needed, and I know I can help. That's always been enough for me. For the first time, Chronoa smiled, a small expression that nevertheless transformed her face, making her appear younger and less severe. Then it's time for the ritual of succession. The formal transfer of the Guardian's mantle. Can it wait until after we deal with whoever's attacking my timeline? Goku asked, already preparing to transition. It can, she conceded, but you'll be fighting at a disadvantage without the full power of the Guardian. Story of my life, Goku replied with his characteristic grin. Fighting at a disadvantage is when I do my best work. Chronoa studied him for a moment, then nodded. Very well, I'll prepare the ritual while you contain this threat. But be cautious, without the full mantle, your temporal abilities will be limited. Limited is still better than what I had yesterday, Goku pointed out. He focused on the viewing portal, memorizing the location and the signature of the cloaked figure. Will you guide me if I need help? I will monitor your progress. Chronoa confirmed, her formal tone returning. The Chrono Scepter allows two-way communication across timelines. If you require assistance, simply channel your thoughts through it. Goku nodded, then closed his eyes and focused on his destination. The scepter glowed, opening a pathway through the temporal barriers. As he prepared to step through, Chronoa called out one final warning. Goku, whoever this is, they clearly understand temporal mechanics. Don't underestimate them. I never underestimate anyone, he replied with a wink. That's how I've stayed alive this long. With that, he stepped through the portal, vanishing from the Chronos Nexus once again. The familiar air of Earth, his Earth, filled Goku's lungs as he materialized atop Kami's lookout. But the peaceful sanctuary had been transformed into a battleground. Dend lay unconscious near his quarters. Mr. Popo was nowhere to be seen, and at the center of the platform stood the cloaked figure. Surrounded by swirling temporal energy, the rift they had created pulsed with sickly green light, and through it, shadow creatures were emerging, entities that seemed to be made of condensed darkness. With glowing eyes and clawed limbs, already a dozen had passed through, spreading out across the lookout's tiles. The figure sensed Goku's arrival and turned slowly. Though their face remained hidden within the hood, a cold laugh echoed from its depths. Right on schedule, the figure said, their voice distorted as if speaking through water. The newly appointed guardian, still wearing the mantle-like ill-fitting clothes. Goku's eyes narrowed. You knew I'd come. Of course. Why do you think I attacked this particular timeline? The figure gestured expansively. I needed to test my theory about Chronos' successor. The casual mention of Chronos confirmed this wasn't a random threat. Whoever this was understood the cosmic hierarchy of time guardianship. Goku gripped the scepter tighter, channeling energy through it as he had during the battle with Cell. Close the rift, he demanded. Whatever you're planning stops now. The figure laughed again. I'm afraid I can't do that, Son Goku. The temporal realignment has already begun. These shadow wraiths are merely the first wave, harbingers of what's to come. As if on cue, the shadow creatures, shadow wraiths, apparently, began to move with greater purpose. Leaping from the lookout toward the earth below. Wherever they touched, small distortions appeared in reality, objects aging rapidly or reverting to earlier states, plants withering or growing wildly out of control. They feed on temporal energy, the figure explained conversationally, consuming the natural flow of time itself. Within hours, this entire timeline will experience complete chronological breakdown. Goku didn't waste time on further dialogue. He channeled ki through the scepter and thrust it toward the nearest cluster of shadow wraiths. Golden energy erupted from its tip, catching 3 of the creatures in a temporal bubble similar to the one he had used on Cell. But unlike Cell, these entities seemed partially resistant to the effect. They slowed but didn't stop completely, their forms stretching and compressing as they fought against the stasis field. Interesting, the cloaked figure commented. You've grasped basic temporal manipulation quickly. But these aren't physical beings you can simply lock in time. The figure raised a hand, and the remaining shadow wraiths converged on Goku from multiple directions. He responded instinctively, transforming into Super Saiyan Blue and using the enhanced speed and perception to evade their attacks. Yet something felt wrong. His transformation had come with effort, the energy didn't flow as smoothly as it should have. And the few times the wraiths managed to make contact, he felt a disturbing draining sensation, as if they were feeding directly on his ki. Your traditional powers are being suppressed. The figure called out, clearly enjoying Goku's confusion. The Guardian's abilities replace conventional energy manipulation. You cannot fully access both simultaneously without completing the succession ritual. This explained Chrono's warning about fighting at a disadvantage. Goku had to choose. Rely on his familiar Super Saiyan transformations with reduced effectiveness, or lean into the new, unfamiliar Guardian abilities. Adapt, he thought to himself. Like always, Goku allowed his Super Saiyan Blue aura to fade, instead focusing entirely on the Chrono Scepter and the temporal energy it channeled. Immediately, he felt a different type of power surge through him, not the raw, physical force of ki, but something more fundamental, more primordial. That's better, the figure approved. Now we can have a proper test. The shadow creatures attacked again, but this time Goku didn't try to evade them conventionally. Instead, he slipped between moments as he had against Cell, experiencing time at a different rate than his surroundings. To the wraiths, he seemed to flicker in and out of existence, impossible to track or engage. Each time he reappeared, he struck with the scepter, not trying to trap the creatures but to disrupt their temporal connection. The strategy proved more effective. Each hit caused a wraith to destabilize, its shadowy form breaking apart into particles that dissipated into the air. But while Goku battled the creatures, the cloaked figure continued their work at the rift, widening it further. More wraiths poured through, and worse. The fabric of reality around the lookout began to visibly strain, cracks appearing in the air itself. Enough games, Goku declared, planting the scepter firmly on the lookout's tiles. Drawn, on instinct and the knowledge imparted by the mantle, he channeled temporal energy in a new pattern. Chronos flow. Purification wave. A pulse of golden light expanded outward in a perfect circle, passing through everything it touched. As it passed through each shadow wraith, the creature froze completely, then shattered like glass, the fragments dissolving into golden dust. The cloaked figure turned fully toward Goku now. Their attention finally captured. Impressive. You're adapting to the Guardian's powers faster than anticipated. Goku didn't waste his advantage. He charged forward, the scepter aimed at the rift itself. If he could seal it as he had done in Cell's timeline. The figure moved with unexpected speed, intercepting him before he could reach the rift. A hand shot out from beneath the cloak, catching the scepter mid-thrust. The contact created a shockwave that cracked the tiles beneath them. Not so fast, the figure hissed. I've studied the Guardian's techniques for centuries. Did you really think you could master in hours what took Chronos millennia to perfect? With a twist of their wrist, the figure sent Goku flying backward, separating him from the Chrono Scepter. The separation was jarring, like having a limb suddenly removed. The temporal energy he had been channeling dissipated, leaving him momentarily vulnerable. The figure approached slowly, the scepter now in their possession. You see the dilemma of your position, don't you? Not fully Guardian, not merely Saiyan, caught between worlds, belonging to neither. Goku rose to his feet, assessing his options. Without the scepter, his connection to the Guardian's powers was weakened but not severed completely. He could feel the mantle's energy within him, incomplete but present. Who are you? He demanded, buying time to recover. What do you want with the timelines? The figure paused, then reached up with their free hand to lower their hood. The face revealed belonged to a man with pale blue skin. White hair pulled into a tight topknot, and eyes that shifted color continuously, a kaleidoscope of temporal energy. My name is Tempest, he said with a small bow. Former apprentice to Chronos, passed over for guardianship in favor of maintaining the natural order. His mouth twisted with bitterness. As if there's anything natural about the chaotic mess of timelines your kind have created. And the shadow wraiths, the attacks on different timelines. A necessary first step, Tempest explained, twirling the scepter with familiar ease. The current multiversal structure is fundamentally flawed. Diverging timelines creating infinite branching realities, each more unstable than the last. My solution is elegant. Collapse all timelines into one perfect, engineered reality. The implications horrified Goku. You're talking about destroying countless lives, entire worlds. I prefer to think of it as refinement, Tempest countered. One perfect timeline instead of infinite flawed ones. Those worthy of existence will be incorporated into the new reality. The rest, he shrugged. Evolutionary dead ends, nothing more. While they spoke, Goku had been gathering chi remained of his connection to the Guardian's power. He might not have the scepter, but the mantle itself had chosen him. That connection couldn't be completely severed. And you decided to test me before moving forward with your plan. Goku surmised, slowly shifting his stance to prepare for his next move. Tempest smiled coldly. Precisely. I needed to understand what kind of guardian you would become, whether you might be persuaded to join my cause, or if you would cling to Chronos' outdated philosophy. His expression hardened. I have my answer now. Good, Goku replied, because so do I. With that, he thrust both hands forward, focusing all his will on the Chrono Scepter. As Guardian Designate, he shared a unique bond with the artifact. It might be in Tempest's physical grasp, but its allegiance lay elsewhere. The scepter vibrated violently, then tore itself from Tempest's hand, flying across the distance to return to Goku. The moment his fingers closed around it, the full Connection to the Guardian's power returned, flooding his system with temporal energy. Impossible, Tempest snarled. You haven't completed the succession ritual. Maybe not, Goku acknowledged, the scepter glowing brightly in his grasp. But I've never been big on following the rules. He channeled his energy through the scepter, directing it not at Tempest but at the rift behind him. Golden light lanced into the tear in reality, beginning the process of sealing it closed. The remaining shadow wraiths howled as their connection to whatever lay beyond began to fail. Tempest's face contorted with rage. No, he thrust both hands toward the rift, countering Goku's efforts with his own temporal manipulation. The tear wavered, caught between closing and widening further. You don't understand what you're interfering with, Tempest shouted over the growing temporal storm created by their opposing energies. The multiverse is dying already, fragmenting under the weight of too many divergent possibilities. My way is the only salvation. Goku stood his ground, continuing to channel power into sealing the rift. Maybe the multiverse has problems, he conceded, but destroying countless lives isn't the solution. There's always another way. The standoff intensified, reality itself groaning under the strain of their conflict. Cracks spread across the lookout as temporal energy lashed outward uncontrolled. In the distance, Goku sensed his friends approaching, Vegeta, Piccolo, Gohan, and others, having felt the disturbance. They can't help you, Tempest warned, following Goku's gaze. This is beyond their understanding, beyond their abilities. You're right, Goku acknowledged. This isn't their fight, it's mine. With sudden clarity, he understood what needed to happen. As long as he and Tempest remained deadlocked, the temporal energies would continue to damage his home timeline. He needed to take this battle elsewhere, somewhere their powers wouldn't threaten innocent lives. Decision made, Goku altered his strategy. Instead of fighting to close the rift, he poured his energy into changing its destination. The sickly green light within the tear shifted gradually toward gold as he overwrote Tempest's coordinates with new ones, directing the portal to the void between times that Chronoa had mentioned. Tempest realized what was happening too late. No, you'll destabilize the entire Chrono's nexus. Respond, Goku shouted into the scepter, hoping Chronoa was monitoring as promised. Her voice came immediately. I'm here. What's happening? I'm redirecting Tempest and his rift to the void between times. He explained rapidly. Be ready to seal it from your side. Before she could respond, Goku charged forward, slamming his shoulder into the surprised Tempest. The impact sent them both tumbling toward the reconfigured rift. As they crossed the threshold, Goku had one final glimpse of his homeworld, just in time to see Vegeta landing on the damaged lookout, his expression shifting from anger to shock as he witnessed Goku's disappearance. Then reality twisted around them, and they were falling through the void, away from Earth, away from the timelines, toward a battlefield where they could continue their conflict without endangering others. The void between times defied comprehension. It wasn't emptiness but something more fundamental, the absence of time itself. No past, no future, only an eternal, impossible present where thoughts moved like molasses and physical laws became mere suggestions. Goku and Tempest materialized in this non-space, air conflict momentarily paused as they adjusted to the overwhelming disorientation. Colors had no meaning here, distance was an illusion. The only constants were the two of them and the temporal energies they commanded. Fool, Tempest snarled when he finally regained his bearings. Do you know what you've done? The void corrupts everything it touches. Without the protection of the Chronos Nexus, we'll both be consumed. Goku gripped the Chrono Scepter tighter, using it as an anchor against the mind-bending nature of their surroundings. Better us than my entire timeline. Tempest's expression shifted from rage to calculation. Noble, perhaps, but ultimately pointless. You've merely delayed the inevitable. The multiverse continues to fracture while we waste time here. Then explain it to me, Goku challenged, keeping his guard up but genuinely curious. Make me understand why your way is the only solution. The request seemed to surprise Tempest. After a moment's hesitation, he gestured at their surroundings. In response, the formless void began to display images, countless timelines, each one containing variations of the same events, the same people, making slightly different choices with wildly divergent outcomes. Look closely, Tempest instructed. What do you see? Goku studied the myriad timelines. Different possibilities. Different versions of the same people living their lives. And do you notice anything else? Look at the connections between them. Focusing harder, Goku began to perceive fine fractures running between the timelines, hairline cracks that see meant to be spreading slowly but inexorably. The barriers are weakening, Tempest continued. Each new divergence, each new timeline, stretches the fabric of reality thinner. Eventually, the multiverse will shatter entirely, causing every timeline to collapse into nothingness. And your solution is to destroy most of them first. Goku challenged. Not destruction. Consolidation, Tempest corrected. One perfect timeline containing the best elements of all realities. A clean slate without the accumulated contradictions and paradoxes that currently threaten existence. Despite his suspicion, Goku couldn't deny the evidence before him. The fractures were real, spreading between timelines like cracks in ice. But something about Tempest's explanation still didn't sit right. Who decides what the best elements are? He asked. Who chooses who lives and who disappears? You. Tempest's expression hardened. I've studied every timeline, every possibility. I alone understand the patterns, the cause and effect that leads to stability versus chaos. So yes, you decide, Goku concluded. One person choosing the fate of countless lives based on your judgment alone. As opposed to what? Tempest countered. Chronos would have let everything collapse rather than interfere with the natural order. At least my way preserves something. The void around them pulsed, responding to their emotional energies. The debate was affecting the unstable environment, causing distortions that rippled outward into nothingness. Goku took a deep breath, centering himself. There has to be another way. Something between doing nothing and destroying everything. There isn't, Tempest insisted. I've explored every possibility, run every simulation. With respect for life, Goku interrupted. Concern for individual choices and freedoms. Or just with cold calculation. The question hit a nerve. Tempest's aura flared, temporal energy crackling around him like lightning. What do individual lives matter compared to the survival of existence itself? Chronos' sentimentality doomed us all when he refused to take necessary action. Or maybe he understood something you don't, Goku suggested quietly. That existence without choice, without freedom, isn't worth preserving. Tempest's patience snapped. With a roar of frustration, he launched himself at Goku, temporal energy coalescing around his fists. Enough philosophy. If you won't join me, you'll fall like Chronos did. Goku met the attack head-on, the chronoscepter clashing with Tempest's energy-wreathed hands. The collision sent shockwaves through the void, creating ripples in the non-space around them. The battle that followed transcended physical combat. They fought across moments that didn't exist, their consciousnesses as much weapons as their bodies. Tempest had centuries of experience manipulating time, but Goku possessed the raw potential of the Guardian's mantle, however incomplete. Tempest accelerated his own time frame, moving at speeds that would be invisible to normal perception. Goku countered by creating pockets of slowed time, forcing Tempest to pass through them and reducing his advantage. Your intuitive understanding is impressive, Tempest acknowledged during a momentary pause in their conflict. But it won't be enough. I've prepared for this confrontation for centuries. To demonstrate, he shifted his tactics. No longer attacking Goku directly but instead targeting the chronoscepter. His hands wove complex patterns in the void, creating temporal bindings that wrapped around the artifact. Without the scepter, your connection to the Guardian's powers will weaken, Tempest explained, tightening the bindings. Then we'll see how well your Saiyan abilities serve you in the void, where time doesn't exist to be manipulated. Goku felt the scepter growing heavier in his grasp, the bindings sapping its connection to the time stream. His instinct was to fight harder, to power through as he always had before. But something told him that approach wouldn't work here. Instead, he closed his eyes and listened to the faint whispers of knowledge that came with the Guardian's mantle. The Swir came not as information but as understanding. The scepter wasn't the source of the Guardian's power but merely a focus for it. The true power resided within the Guardian themselves. Releasing his grip on the scepter, Goku allowed it to float suspended between them, still wrapped in Tempest's bindings. Surrendering already? Tempest asked with a mocking smile. Not exactly, Goku replied. He spread his arms wide, opening himself fully to the mantle's influence for the first time since receiving it. I'm just getting started. Golden light erupted from within him, not the familiar aura of a Super Saiyan but something more fundamental, temporal energy in its purest form, responding to his will without the intermediary of the scepter. The void around them resonated with the power, real it. Y itself bending toward Goku as if recognizing its rightful guardian. Tempest's eyes widened in genuine alarm. Impossible. The succession ritual hasn't been completed. Maybe it doesn't need to be, Goku suggested, feeling the energy flowing through him more naturally now. Maybe it's not about rituals or ceremonies. Maybe it's about having the right heart for the job. The bound chrono scepter began to vibrate, then shattered its constraints, returning to Goku's hand with renewed purpose. The connection between guardian and artifact had strengthened, becoming something Tempest couldn't interfere with. This changes nothing, Tempest declared, though uncertainty had crept into his voice. You still lack the experience to use these powers effectively. You don't understand what's at stake. Then show me, Goku challenged. Not just the problems, show me your solution. Let me see exactly what this perfect timeline of yours would look like. The request caught Tempest off guard. After a moment's hesitation, he extended a hand, manipulating the void to display a new vision, his ideal timeline, constructed from cherry-picked elements of countless realities. Goku studied it carefully. At first glance, it seemed idyllic, a universe without many of the catastrophic threats he had faced, where peace was more prevalent and suffering reduced. But looking closer, he noticed the subtle wrongness permeating everything. The people, he said quietly. They're different. Tempest nodded. Optimized. Free from the flaws that lead to conflict and chaos. They're not free at all, Goku countered, understanding dawning. You haven't just selected the best outcomes, you've changed the fundamental nature of existence. No one makes choices that could lead to problems. No one takes risks. No one grows. Growth requires pain, Tempest argued. I've eliminated unnecessary suffering, and eliminated what makes life worth living in the process, Goku replied sadly. The struggle to improve, to overcome challenges, to learn from mistakes, that's what gives meaning to existence. He gestured at the vision with the scepter, highlighting specific individuals, versions of his friend S and family who smiled and lived peacefully but whose eyes lacked the fire, the determination, the spirit he knew so well. This isn't preservation, he concluded. It's stagnation disguised as perfection. Tempest's expression darkened. You sound exactly like Chronos, clinging to chaotic, inefficient patterns out of sentimental attachment to freedom. Maybe we're both right, Goku suggested. Maybe the multiverse does need intervention, but not by erasing what makes life valuable. An idea began forming in his mind. What if instead of collapsing everything down, we reinforced the barriers between timelines? Stabilized what exists instead of replacing it. I've considered that approach, Tempest dismissed. It would require constant maintenance, endless vigilance. Isn't that what the guardian of time is for? Goku interrupted. Not to dictate how time should flow, but to protect its natural course while preventing catastrophic breakdowns. The question hung between them, void itself seeming to hold its breath. For a moment, doubt flickered across Tempest's features, the first crack in his absolute certainty. But the moment passed, and his resolve hardened once more. No, my way is cleaner, more efficient. One perfect reality instead of infinite flawed ones. Even if it means killing trillions. Goku pressed. They never truly existed in the first place, Tempest responded coldly. Just possibilities, not real people. The statement confirmed everything Goku needed to know about Tempest's mindset. Despite his apparent concern for the multiverse's survival, he fundamentally lacked compassion for the lives within it. His perfect timeline wasn't about salvation but control, reshaping reality to match his vision of how things should be. I can't let you do this, Goku stated simply, his power flaring in response to his resolved will. Not while I'm guardian. Then the solution is simple, Tempest replied, gathering his own temporal energy for a final confrontation. You won't be guardian much longer. They clashed again, but this time the battle shifted to a more conceptual level. Beyond physical strikes or energy blasts, they fought with fundamental aspects of time itself. Tempest attempting to accelerate Goku's personal timeline to age him into dust, Goku countering by existing in multiple moments simultaneously, making himself impossible to target precisely. The void warped around their conflict, reality itself straining under the pressure of two temporal masters fighting for dominance. Fragments of timelines briefly appeared and disappeared, pulled into the void by the gravitational force of their power. "You're making it worse," Tempest shouted as cracks spread through the nothingness around them. "Your resistance is destabilizing what little structure the void has." "Then stop fighting," Goku countered, deflecting another complex temporal attack with the scepter. "Help me find a better solution." "There is no better solution." Tempest gathered his power for one devastating attack, a temporal compression technique designed to collapse Goku's entire existence into a singularity, erasing him from all possible timelines simultaneously. The energy built between his hands, dense and dangerous, warping everything it touched. Goku recognized the threat immediately. Such an attack wouldn't just kill him, it would remove him from history itself, undoing every life he had saved, every battle he had won. The implications were staggering. In that moment, something crystallized within him, a perfect understanding of what being Guardian truly meant. Not just fighting threats or maintaining boundaries, but embodying time itself, its flow, its purpose, its fundamental nature. As Tempest launched his attack, Goku didn't dodge or counter. Instead, he opened himself completely to the Guardian's mantle, accepting it fully for the first time. Golden light erupted from within him, not as an aura but as his very essence transforming. The temporal compression wave struck him directly, and passed through him without effect. Tempest stared in disbelief. "What? I understand now," Goku said, his voice resonating with newfound authority. "The Guardian doesn't control time. The Guardian is time." With that declaration, the transformation completed. Goku's appearance shifted subtly, his hair flowing with golden temporal energy. His eyes reflecting the entirety of the time stream, his very presence seeming to exist in multiple moments simultaneously. The Chrono Scepter changed as well, growing in response to its wielder's evolution. The hourglass at its peak now contained not sand but swirling golden energy, a perfect microcosm of the time stream itself. "No," Tempest whispered, backing away. "No, this isn't possible." The succession ritual was just a formality Goku completed for him. The mantle chooses its bearer based on what's in their heart, not ceremonies or traditions. He stepped forward, and reality solidified around his feet, the void receding from his presence. With each step, the chaos of the void between times calmed, responding to the authority of time's true guardian. "It's over, Tempest," Goku stated, not unkindly. "Your way would destroy everything worth protecting." "And your way?" Tempest demanded, desperation creeping into his voice. "What happens when the fractures spread too far? When reality itself begins to collapse? Then we'll face that challenge too," Goku answered. "Together, if you're willing. Your knowledge and experience would be valuable, if used to preserve lives rather than erase them." For a moment, it seemed Tempest might consider the offer. Uncertainty flickered across his features as he witnessed the completion of Goku's transformation into the true Guardian. But pride and centuries of conviction won out. "Never," he snarled, gathering the last of his power for one final, desperate attack. Goku sighed, genuinely regretful. "Then you leave me no choice." As Tempest launched his attack, Goku raised the Chrono Scepter and spoke a single word: reflect. The temporal energy Tempest had gathered reversed course instantly, flowing back into its creator with all its destructive potential intact. Tempest's eyes widened in the moment before his own power engulfed him. He didn't vanish or die in any conventional sense. Instead, his form compressed exactly as he had intended for Goku, collapsing into a temporal singularity, a single point of infinite density. Within that point, Tempest would experience his own personal timeline infinitely, neither progressing nor ending, similar to Cell's fate. But self-inflicted. Goku approached the singularity, studying it with his enhanced perception. Within it, he could sense Tempest's consciousness already begin ning the endless loop that would be his existence. "I'm sorry it ended this way," he said to the compressed point of light. "Maybe someday you'll understand." With careful movements, Goku created a protective barrier around the singularity, ensuring it wouldn't damage the surrounding void. Then he turned his attention to their surroundings, assessing the damage their battle had caused. The void, Between times had been further destabilized, cracks spreading outward into the walls between timelines. If left unchecked, these cracks could indeed lead to the very collapse Tempest had feared, though on a much longer timeline than he had claimed. Time to get to work, Goku murmured to himself. Raising the Chrono Scepter, he began the process of repairing the damage, not by force but by gentle guidance. Encouraging reality to heal itself rather than imposing his will upon it. As he worked, a familiar voice reached him through his connection to the scepter. "Guardian Goku," Chronoa called. "Can you hear me?" "I hear you," he confirmed, continuing his repairs. "Tempest has been contained. I'm stabilizing the void now." "We've been monitoring from the Nexus," she replied, a new respect evident in her tone. "You've completed the transformation. Without the ritual." Goku smiled slightly. "Seems like the job comes with on-the-job training." "This is unprecedented," Chronoa admitted. "But effective. The time streams are already showing signs of stabilization." Tempest wasn't entirely wrong, Goku told her, sealing another fracture with careful application of temporal energy. "The multiverse is under strain. But his solution would have destroyed everything worth saving." "And your solution?" Goku paused, considering. "Maintenance, reinforcement, and addressing problems as they arise, rather than trying to control everything." A moment of silence, then, Chronos would have approved. "Will you return to the Nexus now?" "Soon," Goku promised. "But first, I need to check on my timeline. Make sure everyone's okay after what happened at the lookout." "Of course," Chronoa acknowledged. "But, they should know that you won't be staying." "Not permanently. The Guardian's duties." "I know," Goku interrupted gently, "but they deserve an explanation, and I need to say goodbye properly. Time flows differently for the Guardian, right? I can spare a few hours." Another pause. "Yes, I'll prepare the Nexus for your return." "Guardian." The connection faded, leaving Goku alone with his thoughts as he completed his work in the void. The transformation had brought clarity along with power. He understood now what accepting the mantle truly meant. He would indeed be saying goodbye to his old life, though perhaps not forever. With the void stabilized, he raised the Chrono Scepter one final time, opening a portal back to his native timeline. As reality bent around him, Goku took one last look at the contained singularity that held Tempest. "First lesson of being Guardian," he said quietly to himself. "Protect life, don't control it." Then he stepped through the portal, returning home for what would be both an ending and a beginning. Goku materialized on the damaged lookout to find his friends and family gathered: Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, and others, along with a recovering Den and Mr. Popo. Their expressions shifted from concern to shock as they beheld his transformed appearance. "Dad," Gohan was the first to approach, his scientific mind already analyzing the changes. "What happened to you?" Before Goku could answer, Chi-Chi pushed through the group. Her face a mixture of relief and anger, the familiar combination he'd seen countless times after returning from dangerous battles. "Son Goku," she began, then faltered as she truly registered his transformation. The golden energy flowing through his hair, the ancient wisdom now visible in his eyes, the subtle way his presence seemed to exist in multiple moments simultaneously, all of it marked him as fundamentally changed. "Chi-Chi," he said softly, reaching for her hand. "I have a lot to explain." For the next hour, as the sun set over the lookout, Goku shared everything: Chronos' sacrifice, the mantle of the Guardian, Tempest and his plans for the multiverse, and finally, what it all meant for Goku's future. "So you're leaving," Vegeta concluded, his arms crossed but his expression troubled. "Abandoning your responsibilities here to chase some cosmic duty." "Not abandoning," Goku corrected gently. "Expanding. As Guardian, I can still watch over this timeline, still protect it when necessary." "But you won't be here," Chi-Chi said, the initial shock giving way to grief. "You won't be coming home for dinner, or training with the boys, or—" She stopped, unable to continue. Goku moved to her side, taking both her hands in his. "Time works differently for the Guardian. I can visit. Not as often as we'd like, but I'll always be connected to this place, to all of you." "How different?" Gohan asked, the scientist in him seeking concrete answers. "Days, weeks, years between visits. I don't know yet," Goku admitted. "I'm still learning what all this means." He gestured to his transformed state. But I know that what I'm doing protects not just our timeline but all possible timelines. Everyone we've ever saved, everyone we've ever loved, across every reality. A heavy silence fell over the group as they absorbed the magnitude of what Goku was saying. It was Piccolo who finally broke it. It suits you, the Namekian observed. You've always protected others, even at great personal cost. This is just a larger scale than before. Krillin nodded in agreement. If anyone can handle being Time's guardian, it's you, Goku. Just don't forget about us little people, okay? The joke broke some of the tension, bringing a smile to Goku's face. As if I could. The sun had fully set now, stars appearing in the night sky above the lookout. As if on cue, he chrono scepter in Goku's hand pulsed gently, a reminder that his time here was limited. I have to go soon, he said, regret evident in his voice. There's still a lot of damage to repair from Tempest's attack, and I need to complete my training at the Nexus. Will we see the transformation next time? Goten asked, his childish curiosity penetrating the solemnity of the moment. It looks even cooler than Super Saiyan Blue. Goku laughed, kneeling to ruffle his youngest son's hair. It's not about looking cool, Goten. It's about using the power responsibly. He looked around at the gathered faces, his family, his friends. The people who had shaped his life. But yes, this is who I am now. One by one, he embraced them all. Gohan and Goten, his sons who had grown into fine men in their own right. Krillin, his oldest friend. Piccolo, once enemy and now trusted ally. Vegeta, his greatest rival and perhaps truest counterpart. And finally Chi-Chi, the woman who had loved him through absences and battles. Victories and defeats. I will return, he promised her quietly. Not as often as either of us wants, but I will always find my way back to you. Chi-Chi wiped away tears, then straightened her shoulders with characteristic determination. You'd better, son Goku. Guardian or not, you still have a family here. Goku nodded, then stepped back to address them all one last time. Take care of each other. I'll be watching over all of you, even when you can't see me. With that, he raised the chrono scepter, opening a portal back to the Chronos Nexus. Golden light spilled through, illuminating the lookout with warm radiance. Until next time, Goku said, offering his characteristic grin, a flash of the carefree warrior still present beneath the mantle of the Guardian. Then he stepped through the portal, vanishing from their sight but not from their timeline. As the portal closed behind him, the last image his friends and family saw was Goku's transformed silhouette, standing tall as he accepted his new role as protector not just of their world, but of all possible worlds. The Guardian of Time had taken up his mantle, and somewhere in the vast multiverse, countless timelines continued their flow. Unaware that their very existence was now watched over by a Saiyan from Earth who had become something more. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Echoes of Vegeta. Chronoa's fingers danced over the temporal interface, manipulating strands of golden light that represented countless timelines. The heart chamber pulsed with activity, dozens of monitoring portals simultaneously tracking temporal anomalies across the multiverse. 3 weeks had passed since Goku's confrontation with Tempest, and the aftershocks continued to ripple through reality. Nexus Sector 8 stabilized, she murmured, collapsing one display with a flick of her wrist. Northern Quadrant temporal pressure decreasing to acceptable levels. Goku stood nearby, observing with fascination. His TRANS formation into Time's Guardian had physically altered him. White streaks now threaded through his normally black hair, and golden timestream reflections occasionally flickered in his irises when he accessed his powers. He wore a modified version of his traditional GI, now overlaid with light armor bearing chronoglyphs along the shoulders and bracers. You make it look easy, he commented, putting to mimic her precise movements on his own interface. His results were considerably less elegant, timeline strands tangling together, causing a minor alarm to sound. Chronoa suppressed a smile, correcting his error with a subtle gesture. I've had considerably more practice, Guardian. Temporal manipulation requires precision, not just power. Still feels strange being called that, Goku admitted, dismissing his interface with a sigh. Guardian, every time I hear it, I expect to turn around and find someone else standing behind me. The mantle chose you, she reminded him, her tone softening slightly. Even if the method was unconventional, their relationship had evolved since his confrontation with Tempest. Chronoa's initial skepticism had given way to reluctant respect. She continued to insist on proper training. For his part, Goku approached his new responsibilities with characteristic determination, if not always with the solemnity Chronoa felt the position demanded. I still don't understand why viewing alternate timelines requires so many protocols, Goku said, gesturing at the complex array of symbols hovering in the air. If I need to see something, why not just look at it directly? Chronoa finished her adjustments before turning to face him. Because observation affects reality, especially for the Guardian. Your attention carries weight. It carelessly can strengthen connections between timelines that should remain separate, or weaken barriers that need reinforcement. Like quantum physics, Goku mused, surprising her. You understand quantum mechanics? Chronoa asked, unable to keep the disbelief from her voice. Goku laughed. Not really, but my son Gohan tried explaining it once, how looking at something can change how it behaves. Never made sense to me until now. He tapped his temple. The Guardian's knowledge helps fill in the gaps. This was another change she'd observed, moments of unexpected insight punctuating his otherwise straightforward approach to problems. The mantle was indeed changing him, gradually integrating its ancient wisdom with his natural intuition. A sharp alarm cut through their conversation. One of the monitoring portals flashing urgent red. Chronoa immediately expanded it, revealing a timeline designation neither of them recognized. VGT 775, she read, studying the anomaly indicators. Temporal fracture forming along a divergence point. Classification: historical linchpin event. Goku moved closer, eyes narrowing as he studied the display. Can you show me what timeline this is? With precise gestures, Chronoa expanded the portal further, revealing glimpses of the affected reality. A red planet orbited against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars, a world that, in most timelines, had been destroyed decades ago. Planet Vegeta, Goku whispered, recognition dawning. It survived in this timeline. Correct. Divergence point approximately 48 years ago, Chronoa confirmed, scrolling through data. In this reality, the Saiyan rebellion against Frieza succeeded. Their civilization continued developing along an alternate path. The revelation struck Goku like a physical blow. A world where his heritage hadn't been nearly extinguished. Where Saiyan culture had continued evolving rather than being reduced to a handful of survivors. I need to see it, he decided instantly. Chronoa frowned. The fracture indicates instability. Someone may be tampering with this timeline deliberately. This could be a trap. Or someone could need our help, Goku countered. He extended his hand, and the Chrono Scepter materialized in his grasp, responding to his will. Either way, it's my responsibility to investigate. Seeing his determination, Chronoa nodded reluctantly. Very well, but maintain temporal concealment protocols. This timeline has no knowledge of Guardians or the multiverse. Your presence should not further destabilize their reality. I'll be careful, Goku promised. Already focusing on his destination. The scepter's crystal began to glow, responding to his intent. And Guardian, Chronoa called as the portal began to form. Remember, you're not going to see what could have been for you. This is an entirely separate timeline with its own history. Its people are not the ones you knew. Goku nodded, understanding her warning. With a final surge of temporal energy, the portal stabilized. Taking a deep breath, he stepped through, leaving the safety of the Chronos Nexus behind. The transition between timelines had become smoother with practice. Though Goku still experienced the momentary disorientation as his consciousness adjusted to the different temporal frequency. He materialized in what appeared to be a dense jungle, massive. Trees towering hundreds of feet above him. Gravity pulled at his body with greater force than Earth's, approximately 10 times stronger, he estimated. For anyone else, moving would have been nearly impossible. But for a Saiyan raised in varying gravitational conditions, it merely required adjustment. Following protocol, he first established temporal camouflage, adjusting his energy signature to match this timeline's frequency. To any senses searching for him, he would register as belonging here rather than as an interdimensional visitor. Next came sensory extension, a Guardian technique that allowed him to perceive the surrounding area beyond normal limits. Closing his eyes, Goku extended his awareness outward in concentric circles. The jungle teemed with life, massive predators and prey evolved for the harsh conditions of planet Vegeta. Beyond that, approximately 20 miles north, he sensed a city, and the unmistakable energy signatures of thousands of Saiyans. The realization sent an unexpected wave of emotion through him. An entire civilization of his people, thriving in a way he had never witnessed. Part of him wanted to immediately investigate, to see Saiyan culture firsthand, but discipline prevailed. He needed to locate the temporal fracture first. Focusing more intently, Goku searched for the disturbance Chronoa had detected. There, approximately 12 miles east, a subtle wrongness in reality's fabric. Like a ripple in still water or a discordant note in a harmony, the fracture disrupted the natural flow of time in its vicinity. Goku oriented himself and prepared to move, when suddenly his senses detected rapidly approaching power signatures. 5 of them, moving with purpose directly toward his position. So much for staying unnoticed, he muttered, considering his options. He could maintain his concealment and observe, or reveal himself and potentially gain information through direct interaction. The decision was made for him when a voice called from above. "Identify yourself, trespasser. This is a restricted research preserve." Goku looked up to see 5 Saiyans hovering above the canopy, each wearing distinctive armor that differed from the Frieza Force designs he remembered. More streamlined, with insignias he didn't recognize emblazoned on the chest plates. All 5 had scouters, currently active and focused on him. "He's masking his power level," one of them reported. A tall female with a jagged scar across her cheek. "Military-grade concealment. Potential spy from the Arcosian remnant," suggested another, a heavy-set male with a full beard. "Call for backup." The apparent leader, a lean, sharp-featured man with a captain's insignia, raised his hand for silence. No Arcosian would come alone. His scouter beeped as he adjusted settings. "And that concealment technique, it's not quite right." He narrowed his eyes. "Identify yourself now, or we attack." Goku decided on a partial truth. "My name is Goku. I'm investigating a disturbance in this area." The 5 exchanged glances. "Goku," the leader repeated. "That's not a Saiyan name. I was raised off-world," Goku explained, which was technically true. "I have authorization to be here." Less true, but necessary. The leader's scouter beeped again, this time displaying information that caused his eyes to widen. He immediately pressed a button on the device. "Command, this is Captain Fennel. We've encountered an individual matching restricted profile Sierra 9. Requesting immediate instructions." After a moment, the scouter crackled with a response too quiet for Goku to hear. The captain's expression shifted from suspicion to something more complex, a mixture of caution and what appeared to be reluctant respect. "Understood, Command. Fennel out." He gestured to his team, who adopted a less aggressive posture. "You're to come with us to the research facility. Director Keita wants to speak with you personally." "Director Keita," Goku repeated, the name unfamiliar. The scarred female Saiyan snorted. "Playing dumb won't help. The Temporal Research Division doesn't take kindly to unauthorized intrusions, even from someone with your unique signature." Temporal Research Division. The information clicked into place. Someone in this timeline was investigating time itself, perhaps the source of the fracture he had detected. This, Director Keita, might have answers. "Lead the way," Goku agreed with a disarming smile. "I'd be happy to meet the director." The captain nodded curtly, then spoke into his scouter again. "Prepare transport for 6, from current coordinates to TRD headquarters. And inform the director that Sierra 9 is cooperative." As the Saiyan patrol surrounded him in a loose formation, Goku wondered what exactly Sierra 9 meant. And why his appearance had triggered such a specific protocol. More importantly, what was the Temporal Research Division doing that had created a fracture visible from the Chronos Nexus? He would get his answers soon enough. The transport that arrived minutes later defied Goku's expectations. Rather than the spherical pods he remembered from his encounters with Saiyans in his timeline. This was an elegant vessel with sleek lines and a transparent upper hull that offered panoramic views. As they rose above the jungle canopy, planet Vegeta revealed itself in breathtaking glory. Red deserts gave way to jewel-toned forests. Mountain ranges pierced cloud layers, their peaks dusted with what appeared to be blue-tinged snow. And in the distance, a city sprawled across a massy Vey plateau. Not the primitive outpost Goku had imagined, but a sophisticated metropolis blending advanced technology with distinctly Saiyan aesthetics. Towers of black stone and gleaming metal reached toward the crimson sky, while spherical structures reminiscent of traditional Saiyan architecture formed the city's core. First time seeing the capital? The scarred female Saiyan asked, noticing his fascination. Is it that obvious? Goku replied with genuine wonder. She studied him curiously. You really weren't raised here, were you? Your accent is strange. I grew up very far away, he said truthfully. The transport banked toward a complex on the city's outskirts, a collection of domed buildings surrounded by a shimmering energy barrier. Unlike the imposing architecture of the capital, these structures featured a more practical design, clearly prioritizing function over form. The entire facility hummed with energy that Goku's enhanced senses recognized as unusual, not quite ki, not quite technology, but something in between. As they descended toward a landing pad, Goku noticed something else. The Saiyans working below didn't all look like the warriors he had known. Some wore lab coats instead of armor. Others carried scanning equipment rather than weapons. This was a research facility in truth, not merely in name. The Temporal Research Division, Captain Fennel explained, following Goku's gaze. Established 20 years ago to investigate anomalies discovered during deep space exploration. Director Keita has led the division for the past 5 years, since the previous director's incident. The hesitation caught Goku's attention. What kind of incident? None of the Saiyans answered, exchanging uncomfortable glances instead. The transport settled onto the landing pad with a gentle hiss of hydraulics. The director will explain what she deems necessary, the captain finally said, standing. Follow me. They exited the transport into the dry heat of planet Vegeta's atmosphere. Goku felt a strange sensation, a familiarity his body recognized despite his mind never having experienced this world. The gravity, the air composition, the particular quality of sunlight, all of it resonated with his Saiyan physiology on a cellular level. Home, he whispered involuntarily. The scarred female Saiyan walking beside him gave him an odd look but said nothing. Captain Fennel led them through a series of security checkpoints, each more sophisticated than the last. Goku noted that his temporal camouflage remained undetected, but something else about him as registering on their systems. Each scan resulted in the same security protocol override, Sierra 9. Finally, they reached what appeared to be a primary research chamber, a vast circular room dome aided by a central platform surrounded by holographic displays. Dozens of Saiyans worked at various stations, monitoring readings and adjusting parameters. The energy Goku had sensed from outside was stronger here, pulsing with a rhythm that reminded him of the Chronos Nexus. Wait here, Captain Fennel instructed, approaching a figure standing with her back to them, studying a particularly complex display. From his position, Goku could see only that she was shorter than most Saiyans present, with black hair streaked with blue that was pulled into a tight braid reaching her mid-back. She wore a modified version of Saiyan armor over what appeared to be a lab uniform, creating an unusual hybrid of scientist and warrior. The captain spoke quietly to her, gesturing back toward Goku. Whatever he said caused her to stiffen momentarily before turning to look directly at the visitor. Their eyes met across the chamber, and Goku felt an unexpected jolt, not of recognition, but of something deeper. Her face was distinctly Saiyan in its sharp features and determined expression, yet her eyes held an analytical intensity he associated more with Bulma than any Saiyan he had known. A prominent S-car ran diagonally across her left cheek, disappearing beneath her jawline. She dismissed the captain with a curt nod and crossed the chamber with purposeful strides, each step betraying the balanced grace of a trained fighter despite her scientific attire. So, she said when she reached him, her voice carrying the distinctive Saiyan rasp but tempered with precise diction. You're the temporal anomaly our sensors detected. Her eyes narrowed as she studied him. Interesting. You match the quantum signature perfectly, yet the probability matrix suggests a variance of at least 87%. Goku blinked, not entirely following her technical language. I'm Goku, he offered simply. I know exactly who you are, she replied. Or rather, who you're supposed to be. The question is whether you're an intentional paradox or a natural divergence. She gestured sharply to the guards. Leave us. Captain Fennel hesitated. Director, security protocols recommend. If he wanted to harm me, your presence wouldn't make a difference. She interrupted flatly. Dismissed, Captain. After a moment's hesitation, the security team withdrew, leaving Goku alone with the enigmatic director. I'm Keita, she stated once they had privacy. And you're a timeline walker. The directness of her assertion caught Goku off guard. How do you? Because I've been tracking temporal disruptions for 15 years. She answered before he could finish. And because according to every historical record on planet Vegeta, Kakarot, son of Bardock, the Saiyan you genetically match, was sent to a frontier world as an infant and never returned. Her eyes fixed on his with uncomfortable intensity. Yet here you stand, grown and carrying a temporal signature that doesn't belong to this reality. Goku considered his options. Chronoa had warned him about revealing too much about the multiverse to those unprepared for such knowledge. Yet Keita clearly already understood more than she should. I'm investigating a temporal fracture in this region, he said carefully. Something or someone is damaging the barriers between realities. Keita's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Confirmation, perhaps. Then our interests align. Follow me. She turned abruptly and headed toward a restricted area at the back of the main chamber. Goku followed, noting how other researchers moved respectfully out of her path. Whatever her position in Saiyan society, it commanded considerable authority. They entered a smaller laboratory where a familiar energy signature intensified. Here, Vari's instruments surrounded what appeared to be a contained rift in space-time, similar to what Goku had sensed in the jungle, but carefully stabilized within an energy field. 3 weeks ago, RD.P space-temporal sensors detected a massive disturbance outside our reality, Keita explained, activating a display that showed readings Goku recognized as the aftereffects of his battle with Tempest. Something happened in what we call the void, the space between potential realities. The shockwave damaged barriers that were already thin in certain locations. She gestured to the contained rift. His appeared in the ancient preserve 2 days later. A natural weak point, torn open by whatever happened in the void. You've been studying it, Goku observed, impressed by the sophisticated containment system. Of course, Keita replied matter-of-factly. Saiyan science has been investigating parallel realities since we discovered the first temporal echoes during the Arcosian War. She studied him with renewed interest. But you're the first physical manifestation to cross over, at least, the first we've detected. Goku approached the containment field, sensing the instability within the rift. This wasn't a natural phenomenon. Something had deliberately weakened this point from the other side. The recognition confirmed his suspicions. Someone was targeting this specific timeline. Have you sent anything through it? He asked. Or received anything besides energy readings? A brief hesitation. No physical matter has transferred in either direction. The careful phrasing caught his attention. But something else came through. Keita's expression hardened slightly. Information. Specifically, quantum-encoded data packages containing technological specifications beyond our current capabilities. She crossed her arms. Advanced temporal manipulation technology, to be precise. And you built it, Goku concluded, the pieces falling into place. That's what's causing the fracture to widen. We're not fools, she snapped, bristling at the implied accusation. We built a prototype based on partial specifications only, carefully isolated and containing multiple fail-safes. Her eyes narrowed. What concerns me more is why someone would send us this technology in the first place. Goku had been wondering the same thing. Have you received any messages? Demands. Anything explaining why? Just one. Keita activated another display, showing what appeared to be a simple text message. Freedom from tyranny of singular history. Contact imminent. When did this come through? 18 hours ago, she replied. Shortly before our sensors detected your arrival. The timing wasn't coincidental. Someone had lured him to this timeline specifically. Someone who knew he would detect the fracture and investigate. Director Keita, a voice interrupted from the doorway. One of the researchers stood there, looking concerned. The containment field is registering fluctuations. Something's trying to come through. Keita moved immediately to a control station, fingers flying over the interface. Lock down all non-essential systems. Divert power to secondary containment. Goku joined her, extending his senses toward the rift. There was indeed something pushing against the barrier, a deliberate, calculated pressure testing for weaknesses. It's responding to my presence, he realized aloud. It was waiting for me to arrive. Keita shot him a sharp look. You know what's on the other side. Not specifically, but I have suspicions. Goku placed a hand on her shoulder, gently moving her aside. Let me handle this. To his surprise, she didn't protest, instead watching with analytical intensity as he approached the containment field. The chrono scepter materialized in his hand, drawing gasps from the researchers present. That signature, Keita murmured, studying readings on her display. It's quantum synchronized with the rift's frequency. Goku raised the scepter, its crystal glowing in response to the temporal disturbance. Using techniques Chronoa had taught him, he began stabilizing the fracture, reinforcing the natural barriers between timelines. The rift pulsed in response, the pressure from the other side increasing. Whatever was attempting to break through was powerful and determined. It's fighting my efforts, Goku said through gritted teeth, channeling more power through the scepter, trying to establish a permanent connection to your timeline. Keita moved to another console. I'm detecting a focused temporal beam attempting to lock onto specific coordinates. It's targeting multiple locations simultaneously. Her expression sharpened with alarm. The Royal Palace, Defense Headquarters, and, here. The implications were clear, a coordinated attack on Saiyan leadership and the facility capable of closing the rift. Warn them, Goku ordered, maintaining his focus on the fracture. And evacuate non-essential personnel from this facility immediately. To her credit, Keita didn't question the instructions. She activated a communication channel and issued rapid orders, her tone shifting to pure military command. The pressure against the rift suddenly intensified tenfold, causing the containment field to flicker. Alarms blared throughout the facility as systems struggled to compensate. Field integrity at 68% and falling, reported a researcher. Goku poured more power into his efforts, golden temporal energy streaming from the scepter into the weakened barriers. For a moment, it seemed to be working, the rift stabilized. The pressure receding slightly, then everything changed. The scepter's crystal flashed a warning red, and Goku felt a familiar energy signature emanating from the rift, temporal maw. GIC bearing the unmistakable resonance of Tempest. Not the man himself, still imprisoned in his self-created singularity, but someone using his techniques. Containment breach imminent, shouted a researcher. Get everyone out, now. Goku commanded, dropping his stabilization efforts to establish a different kind of barrier, not to repair the rift, but to protect the facility from what was about to come through it. Keita barked orders, and the laboratory cleared rapidly, all except for her. You should go too, Goku told her, the golden barrier he was creating expanding to encompass the rift. My facility, my responsibility. She replied simply, drawing what appeared to be a modified Saiyan blaster from a holster at her hip. Unlike standard energy weapons, this one hummed with a frequency that resonated with temporal energy. Interesting weapon, Goku noted, despite the tension of the moment. Prototype, she explained tersely. Designed to disrupt quantum unstable entities. Theoretical until about 10 seconds from now. Quote, the containment field collapsed with a thunderous implosion, leaving only Goku's hastily erected barrier between them and the rift. Through the golden energy, they could see the tear in reality widening, darkness spilling through like liquid shadow. From this darkness emerged three figures, humanoid in basic shape, but wrong in fundamental ways. Their bodies appeared to be constructed of constantly shifting temporal fragments, like living mosaics of different moments existing simultaneously. Where faces should have been, they had only swirling vortices of compressed time. Chrono's syndicate enforcers, Goku identified them, recognizing the distinctive temporal signature Tempest had wielded. Elite temporal assassins. The central figure raised Chi appeared to be a staff similar to the Chrono Scepter, but corrupted, its crystal black rather than golden, its design twisted into something threatening. Guardian, it spoke, its voice distorting as if coming from multiple timeframes simultaneously. Your interference ends now. This timeline belongs to the Syndicate. I don't think so, Goku replied, reinforcing his barrier as the enforcer struck it with dark temporal energy. The barrier held, but hairline fractures appeared where the energies met. These weren't ordinary opponents. They wielded corrupted guardian magic, potentially capable of challenging even Goku's powers. Keita moved to his side, weapon raised. What are they? What do they want? They're servants of someone who believes all timelines should be collapsed into one reality, Goku explained, maintaining his focus on the barrier. They want to harvest this world's temporal energy to further that goal. Everyone here would cease to exist. The determination in Keita's expression hardened to steel. Not while I breathe. She adjusted settings on her weapon. Can they be destroyed? Not easily, but they can be disrupted, Goku answered. They're not fully in Is timeline. Parts of them exist in multiple realities simultaneously. That's why they appear fragmented. Quantum state flux, she muttered, understanding immediately. Then my disruptor might actually work. She made a final adjustment to her weapon. Dropped the barrier. Goku glanced at her in surprise. They're stronger than they look. A cold smile curved her lips. So am I. Something in our tone, absolute confidence without bravado, convinced him. On 3, he agreed, readying the scepter for a different type of attack. 1, 2, 3. The barrier dissipated, and several things happened simultaneously. The enforcers lunged forward, temporal energy crackling around them like dark lightning. Keita fired her weapon, releasing not a beam but a spherical pulse that expanded outward, passing through everything it touched. Where the pulse connected with the enforcers, their fragmented bodies destabilized further, temporal components separating like oil in water. They staggered, momentarily vulnerable. Goku didn't waste the opportunity. Charging the scepter with concentrated temporal energy, he executed a precise strike at the lead enforcer, not aiming for its physical form, but for the nexus point that connected its fragmented existence across multiple timelines. The enforcer shrieked, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, as its form began to collapse inward. The black crystal in its staff shattered, releasing a shockwave of dark energy. The other two enforcers attacked with renewed urgency, one engaging Goku directly while the other launched itself toward Keita. To Goku's surprise, Keita didn't retreat. Instead, she dropped her disruptor and shifted seamlessly into a fighting stance he didn't recognize, something that combined traditional Saiyan martial arts with more disciplined techniques. When the enforcer reached her, she moved with extraordinary speed, evading its grasp and striking at joining points in its fragmented anatomy with precision that spoke of extensive training. Physical attacks won't stop them permanently, Goku warned, parrying his opponent's staff with the scepter. I don't need permanent, she replied without breaking her concentration. Just need to reach that. She nodded toward a console across the room. Understanding her intent, Goku created a momentary distraction, releasing a controlled pulse of temporal energy that forced both remaining enforcers back. Go. Keita seized the opportunity, diving toward the console and activating a sequence with practiced efficiency. Immediately, the laboratory's systems hummed to life, focusing energy on the rift itself. What are you doing? Goku asked, maintaining position between the enforcers and Keita. Using their own gateway against them, she explained. Fingers flying over the controls. If we can't close it immediately, we can at least reverse the polarization, push them back through and temporarily lock it from this side. The enforcers seemed to realize her plan. Both abandoned their attack on Goku and surged toward Keita, temporal energy building around them for a devastating strike. Time seemed to slow as Goku assessed the situation. Keita needed seconds more to complete the reversal, seconds she wouldn't have if the enforcers reached her. Standard Guardian protocols dictated minimal interference in timeline native affairs, allowing individuals to face their own challenges. Protocols be damned, Goku decided. Drawing on the full power of his Guardian mantle, he executed a technique he had been developing, temporal displacement. For a split second, he existed in multiple locations simultaneously, creating afterimages that confused even the enforcers' multidimensional senses. He reappeared directly between the attackers and Keita. The chrono scepter held horizontally before him. Time lock. Golden energy erupted from the scepter, enveloping the enforcers in a stasis field similar to what he had used on Cell. Unlike that permanent lock, however, this was temporary, just enough to hold them in place while Keita completed her work. Impressive, she commented without looking up from her task. Quantum state suspension requiring minimal energy expenditure. Efficient. A few more commands, and she stepped back from the console. Done. Reversal initiating in 3, 2, 1. The Rift FL-ARED with brilliant light as its polarity reversed. Like a powerful vacuum, it began pulling everything back toward its origin point. The time-locked enforcers, unable to resist, were dragged inexorably toward the tear, their forms distorting further as they approached its event horizon. The rift will pull anything with an external temporal signature, Kata warned, bracing herself against the console as the suction intensified. Including you, potentially. Goku planted the scepter firmly, anchoring himself to this timeline's reality. I've established enough presence here. I should be fine. The enforcers disappeared into the rift with a final, discordant shriek that echoed across multiple frequencies. The tear itself began to contract, the reversal procedure forcing it closed from this side. In the final moment before it sealed completely, Goku glimpsed something through the rift, a figure watching from the other side, too distant to identify clearly but radiating familiar temporal energy. Then the tear snapped shut with a thunderclap of displacing air, leaving only residual energy readings to mark its existence. Silence fell over the laboratory, broken only by the soft ping of monitoring equipment and Kata's measured breathing. That, she said finally, was enlightening. Goku turned to find her studying him with renewed interest, all pretense of ignorance abandoned. You're not just a timeline walker, she stated. You're the guardian, the one the data packets mentioned, the new protector of the multiverse's integrity. There seemed little point in denying it now. Yes, rather than the awe or fear he might have expected, Kata's expression showed something closer to scientific satisfaction, a hypothesis confirmed. Fascinating. The mathematical probability of meeting the multiverse's singular guardian is approximately not as low as you might think, Goku interrupted with a small smile. Considering someone deliberately lured me here. Her analytical focus sharpened. The Syndicate. They wanted you specifically. To eliminate me, or to distract me, Goku confirmed. Either way, this was targeted. He approached the console, examining the readings from the now closed rift. Your reversal technique was impressive. Not something most scientists would develop without prior knowledge of temporal mechanics. A shadow crossed Kata's features. We've had previous encounters with temporal anomalies. Less direct than this, but concerning enough to justify research. The incident with the previous director. Goku guessed. She assessed him for a moment before responding. 5 years ago, Director Nyan disappeared during an experiment. One moment he was there, the next, temporal residue was all that remained. Her voice remained clinical, but Goku sensed deeper emotions beneath the surface. His final recordings mentioned visitors from outside time, who offered advanced knowledge in exchange for access to our reality. The Chronos Syndicate, Goku confirmed grimly. They've been planning this for years, then. Establishing footholds in vulnerable timelines. And now they've made their move, Kata concluded. She straightened suddenly, remembering something. The other targets, the palace and defense headquarters. She activated a communication channel, but before she could speak, alarms blared throughout the facility. The main display activated automatically, showing scenes of chaos from across the capital. Temporal rifts had opened at multiple locations, with more enforcers emerging to engage Saiyan defense forces. It was a diversion, Goku realized. They wanted us focused here while they attacked elsewhere. Kata's expression hardened as she absorbed the strategic implications. Dividing our strongest defenses, she turned to him directly. The Saiyan military is powerful, but they have no experience with temporal entities. They'll be slaughtered. Decision made. Goku raised the Chrono Scepter. I need to help them. Not alone, Kata countered, retrieving her disruptor weapon. My device works against these entities. You need me with you. Goku hesitated. Guardian protocols advised against directly involving timeline natives in external conflicts. But Kata had already proven herself both knowledgeable and capable. It'll be dangerous, he warned. A distinctly Saiyan smile curved her lips, confident, fierce, and slightly predatory. Danger is our natural environment, Guardian. Or did your timeline's Saiyans somehow evolve differently? Despite the gravity of the situation, Goku couldn't help returning the smile. Point taken. He extended his hand. Stay close. Temporal transition can be disorienting the first time. Without hesitation, Keita stepped forward and grasped his offered hand. Her grip was firm, her palm calloused in patterns that spoke of both scientific instruments and martial training. The royal palace first, she directed. King Vegeta will be the primary target. King Vegeta. The name sent an unexpected jolt through Goku. In this timeline, the Saiyan monarchy had survived, the culture had continued uninterrupted. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on the immediate crisis. Channeling energy through the scepter, he created a localized temporal corridor, not a full transition between timelines, but a path through the same reality that bypassed conventional space. Ready? He asked. Keita met his gaze steadily, no fear in her eyes despite the unknown she was about to experience. Ready. The corridor enveloped them, and they vanished from the laboratory, leaving behind only the residual glow of guardian magic. They emerged atop a massive obsidian structure that dominated the capital's skyline, the royal palace of planet Vegeta. Its architecture a striking blend of ancient Saiyan traditions and advanced technology. Spires of black stone reached toward the crimson sky, while energy shields created a subtle dome over the entire complex. Or rather, what remained of those shields? Multiple breaches were visible, the defensive barrier fluctuating as it struggled to compensate. Below, in the palace courtyards and surrounding streets, battle raged. Saiyan warriors engaging temporal enforcers similar to those they had faced in the laboratory, but greater in number. The shields should have prevented any direct teleportation, Keita observed, quickly orienting herself. They've been compromised specifically. Goku extended his senses, searching for the largest concentration of temporal energy. There, he indicated, pointing toward the central structure. That's where they'll be focusing their attack. The throne room, Keita confirmed. This way. She led him across the rooftops with the confidence of someone intimately familiar with the layout. Goku followed, impressed by her speed and agility. Even without using flight, she moved with precision that matched many of the fighters he had known. They reached a service entrance that showed signs of recent combat. Bodies of palace guards lay nearby, fallen while defending against the initial incursion. Keita knelt briefly beside one, checking for life signs. Then grimly moved on when she found none. The main corridors will be heavily defended, she explained as they descended through the palace. Both by our forces and theirs. We should approach from. She stopped abruptly as they rounded a corner, coming face to face with a squadron of Saiyan elite guards. The guards raised their weapons immediately, then hesitated upon recognizing Keita. Director, their leader acknowledged, lowering his weapon slightly. This area is under attack. You should not be here. His gaze shifted to Goku, suspicion evident. Who is this? Specialized temporal consultant. Keita replied without hesitation. Here to assist with the incursion. Status report, Commander. The seamless authority in her tone worked. The commander responded automatically. Multiple breaches throughout the palace. King Vegeta is secure in the secondary throne room with his personal guard, but communications are compromised. We've lost contact with Defense Headquarters, and AP. Approximately 40% of the capital is experiencing temporal distortions. What about the Crown Prince? Keita asked, a new edge entering her voice. The commander's expression tightened. CE Vegeta was in the training complex when the attack began. Last reports indicated he was engaging hostiles directly, against royal protocol. Of course he was, Keita muttered, a mixture of ration and something like pride in her tone. Commander, escort your men to the eastern quadrant. Reinforcements are needed there. But Director, our orders have been superseded, she interrupted firmly. Go, we'll handle the situation here. After a moment's hesitation, the commander nodded sharply. As you command, Director. He led his squad away, continuing their patrol route. Once they were alone, Goku gave Keita a curious look. You have authority to redirect the elite guard. Scientific Directorate outranks military during technological crises, she explained tersely, already moving again. Which is what they believe this is. Now come. The secondary throne room is 3 levels down. As they navigated deeper into the palace, evidence of the attack became more pronounced. Corridors showed damage from energy weapons and close quarters combat. Occasionally they passed more fallen defenders, each death strengthening Goku's resolve to end this incursion quickly. The syndicate wants something specific, he said as they moved. This isn't just random destruction. They're searching for something, or someone, Keita suggested. The royal family carries the purest Saya N bloodlines, genetically valuable if you're interested in timeline manipulation. The observation was astute, confirming Goku's impression of Keita's intelligence. You understand more about temporal mechanics than most scientists I've encountered. A shadow crossed her features. Let's just say I have personal reasons for studying timeline theory. Before Goku could inquire further, they reached a heavily fortified doorway guarded by what appeared to be elite Saiyan warriors, their armor more ornate, their bearing unmistakably that of veteran fighters. Unlike the previous guards, these show no signs of yielding to Keita's authority. Halt, commanded their leader, a battle-scarred veteran with a captain's insignia. None shall pass, by order of the king. Keita stepped forward. Captain Zorn, the palace is under attack by temporal entities beyond conventional defense capabilities. I've brought someone who can help. The captain's eyes narrowed as he assessed Goku. Another of your scientific experiments, Director. The king has not forgotten the last one. A muscle tightened in Keita's jaw. This is different. I can speak for myself, Goku interrupted gently, stepping forward. He addressed the captain directly, guardian authority resonating in his voice. Your weapons can't stop these invaders. Mine can. Every moment we argue puts your king at greater risk. Captain studied him with the wary assessment of a seasoned warrior. Whatever he saw in Goku's eyes, the centuries of battle experience imparted by the Guardian's mantle, perhaps, seemed to sway him. Very well, he decided. But I accompany you both. The rest maintain position here. They had barely taken 3 steps toward the reinforced doors when a tremendous explosion shook the entire palace. Dust rained from the ceiling as the structure trembled. They've breached the inner defenses, the captain realized, drawing his weapon. The doors to the secondary throne room burst open from within, and a commanding voice bellowed, Zorn. Status report. Goku felt a shock of recognition as a figure emerged from the dust and debris, King Vegeta himself, bearing an unmistakable resemblance to the Prince Vegeta he had known. But older, with a full beard streaked with gray and the weathered features of a ruler who had guided his people through both war and peace. The king stopped short upon seeing the visitors, his gaze locking first on Keita, then shifting to Goku with sudden, intense scrutiny. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Director Keita, explain this intrusion immediately. Before she could answer, the wall to their right exploded inward. Through the breach poured a dozen temporal enforcers, led by a figure different from the others, taller, more defined, wielding a staff that pulsed with dark energy. Found you, the leader announced, its voice distorted but more coherent than the others. The genetic template. Perfect. King Vegeta immediately dropped into a fighting stance, energy gathering around his fists. No creature threatens the Saiyan monarch without consequence. The king launched himself at the lead enforcer with impressive speed and power, landing a devastating blow that would have incapacitated most opponents. Against a temporal entity, however, it merely passed through, disrupting the enforcer's form momentarily before it reconstituted. Physical attacks are ineffective, Your Majesty, Keita warned, activating her disruptor. Fall back. Goku moved with guardian speed, interposing himself between the king and the enforcers. The Chrono Scepter materialized in his hand, golden energy flaring as he established a protective barrier. What manner of warrior are you? King Vegeta demanded, clearly torn between pride and pragmatism. One trained to fight these specific enemies, Goku answered simply. Let me handle them. Protect your people. Something in his tone, the natural authority of the Guardian, perhaps, caused the king to hesitate, then nod sharply. Captain Zorn, evacuation protocol. Move. The captain immediately began coordinating the evacuation of the throne room's occupants through a secondary exit. King Vegeta himself remained, however, moving to Keita's side. Your disruptor technology, he observed. Will it work against these abominations? Theoretically, she confirmed, making final adjustments. But I've only tested it on individual entities, not a group this size. Then we adapt, the king stated with characteristic Saiyan confidence. As we always have. Goku maintained the barrier as the enforcers coordinated their attack, striking simultaneously with corrupted temporal energy. The shield held, but hairline fractures appeared where multiple attacks converged. I can't hold this indefinitely, he warned. Not against this many. We need a plan. Kata's analytical mind worked rapidly. The palace has a central power core 2 levels below us. If we can reach it, I might be able to modify my disruptor technology to create a facility-wide pulse that would neutralize them all simultaneously, Goku realized. But we need to reach the core intact. King Vegeta's expression hardened with determination. The Royal Passage, a secure route designed for emergency evacuation. It leads directly to the central infrastructure. Can you open it from here? Kata asked urgently. The king nodded. Blood-locked. Only the royal family can access it. Another coordinated strike hit Goku's barrier, the fractures widening. Whatever we're doing, we need to do it now. King Veget, moved to a seemingly ordinary section of wall and pressed his palm against it. The surface recognized his genetic signature, a hidden door sliding open to reveal a narrow passage. This way, he commanded. Director, you first with your equipment. Then our ally. He cast an appraising glance at Goku. I will cover our retreat. With respect, Your Majesty, Goku countered, my barrier is the only thing holding them back. I need to be last. The king's eyes narrowed, not accustomed to having his orders questioned. After a brief assessment, however, he nodded curtly. Proceed, Director. I will assist our ally. Kata disappeared into the passage with her disruptor. King Vegeta moved to Goku's side, gathering his considerable power. On my mark, Goku instructed, I'll drop the barrier and create a focused temporal pulse. It won't stop them, but it will disorient them briefly. That's when we move. Understood. The king acknowledged, royal pride temporarily setting aside in the face of practical necessity. Goku focused his energy, preparing for the precise timing this would require. Ready. Now. The barrier dissipated as Goku thrust the Chrono Scepter forward, releasing a concentrated burst of temporal energy that momentarily disrupted the Enforcer's fragmented forms. In that instant of confusion, he and King Vegeta retreated into the passage, the hidden door sealing behind them just as the Enforcers recovered. The royal passage was illuminated by soft blue light embedded in the walls, the narrow corridor sloping downward toward the palace's foundations. Kata waited for them at the first junction. Her disruptor already partially disassembled as she made modifications. They'll break through eventually, she warned. These passages weren't designed to withstand temporal attacks. Then we move quickly, King Vegeta stated, taking the lead. The core chamber is this way. As they navigated the passage, Goku noticed something he hadn't before, subtle similarities between Kata and the king. Not obvious enough to indicate direct relation, but suggesting common ancestry several generations removed. The observation piqued his curiosity about her exact position in Saiyan society. These enforcers, King Vegeta said as they descended deeper into the palace infrastructure. You know what they are. What they want. It wasn't a question, but Goku answered anyway. They're servants of a group that wants to collapse all timelines into one reality. They target specific genetic templates, individuals of particular importance to a timeline's development. Like the royal bloodline, Kata added, continuing her modifications without slowing her pace. Saiyan genetic material that carries potential for extraordinary power development. The king's expression darkened. Is that why they attacked the training complex as well? The Crown Prince. As likely another target, Goku confirmed. Where is the training complex located? Eastern Quadrant, adjacent to the elite barracks. King Vegeta replied, concern briefly breaking through his regal composure. My son is strong, but against enemies that conventional attacks cannot harm. We stop them at the source first. Kata interjected firmly. The disruptor pulse will neutralize all temporal entities within the palace perimeter. Then we can locate the prince. They reached another junction, this one secured by another genetic scanner. The king placed his palm against it, the door recognizing his signature and sliding open to reveal their destination, the central power core of the royal palace. A massive chamber dominated by a cylindrical column of pulsing energy that extended from floor to ceiling. The primary fusion reactor, Kata explained, immediately moving toward a control interface. It powers everything from defense shields to life support, and can be weaponized, King Vegeta added grimly. A last resort protocol designed for palace defense. Kata connected her disruptor to the interface. fingers flying over controls as she integrated her technology with the palace systems. I need 5 minutes to complete the calibration. The pulse needs to be precise. Y tuned to disrupt temporal entities without damaging native timeline structures. As if on cue, an alarm sounded from the passage they had just traversed. They've breached the royal passage, the king concluded, moving to a defensive position near the entrance. We must hold them here. Goku joined him, the chrono scepter at ready. Focus on buying time. I'll handle direct engagement. For a moment, King Vegeta seemed ready to object to taking orders, but pragmatism again prevailed. Agreed. My power is better used in support. The first enforcers appeared at the entrance, their fragment forms twisting unnaturally as they navigated conventional space. Goku stepped forward, engaging them directly with precisely applied temporal energy, not attempting to destroy them, which would require more power than he could safely use in this enclosed space, but keeping them contained and distracted. King Vegeta proved his worth as a warrior, demonstrating why he ruled a race of fighters. While his direct attacks had limited effect, he quickly adapted, using his energy blasts to manipulate the environment instead, collapsing sections of corridor to slow the enforcers' advance, creating barriers that required time to phase through, and occasionally generating energy flashes that temporarily disoriented their multidimensional senses. Clever, Goku acknowledged after a particularly effective combination. You adapt quickly. Quote, a king who cannot adapt does not remain king among Saiyans, Vegeta replied simply, preparing another tactical blast. Their coordinated defense held the enforcers at bay. But more continued to arrive, their numbers gradually overwhelming the restricted space. The lead enforcer, the more defined one, finally appeared, its distorted voice carrying despite the chaos. Feudal resistance, it stated. This timeline belongs to the Syndicate now. Its energy will feed the convergence. You talk too much, King Vegeta responded, launching a concentrated RGY blast directly at the enforcer's face. The attack passed through its temporal form, but the king had anticipated this. The blast continued into the ceiling above, strategically weakening the structure. With a thunderous crack, a section of the ceiling collapsed directly onto the enforcer, temporarily disrupting its cohesion. 2 minutes remaining, Kata called from the control interface, voice steady despite the growing pressure. Disruptor integration at 78% and climbing. The lead enforcer reconstituted itself, temporal energy swirling angrily around its form. Enough games. The template must be secured. It raised its corrupted staff, channeling power different from the other enforcers, more focused, more controlled. The energy coalesced into a temporal binding similar to Hat Tempest had attempted against Goku in the void. The target, however, wasn't Goku but King Vegeta. Recognizing the imminent threat, Goku moved with guardian speed, interposing himself between the king and the enforcer's attack. The temporal binding struck the chrono scepter instead, the two opposing energies creating a localized distortion field where they met. You cannot stop the inevitable, Guardian, the enforcer stated, increasing the power behind its attack. This timeline is just one of many that will feed the convergence. The Syndicate grows stronger with each world we claim. Who leads you now that Tempest is gone? Goku demanded, holding firm against the pressure. The enforcer's form rippled with what might have been amusement. Tempest was merely one architect. The Syndicate transcends individuals. We are inevitability itself. A sudden energy surge from behind caught Goku's attention. King Vegeta, gathering his power for a significant attack despite knowing its limited effectiveness. The king's aura flared brilliant white, his strength pushing well beyond what Goku would have expected from this timeline's version. Saiyan pride does not yield to inevitability, the king declared, his voice resonating with generations of warrior heritage. We forge our own destiny. He unleashed not a beam or a blast, but a technique Goku hadn't seen before, a spherical energy wave that expanded outward in all directions, temporarily solid rather than purely energy-based. As it passed through the enforcers, it didn't damage them directly but forced their fragmented forms to separate further, creating greater instability in their already tenuous cohesion. Fascinating application, Kata commented without looking up from her work. Kinetic displacement wave. 1 minute remaining. The lead enforcer struggled against the unexpected effect, its control over the temporal binding weakening. Goku seized the advantage, channeling counter-energy through the scepter to reverse the binding's direction. The corrupted staff began to vibrate as its own energy reflected back upon it. Impossible, the enforcer hissed. The Guardian's powers are limited in external timelines. I'm still learning my limits. Goku replied with a determined smile. You might be helping me break them. With a final surge of power, he completed the reversal, sending the binding back to its source. The corrupted staff shattered with a discordant crack, temporal energy backwashing through the enforcer's fragmented form. It shrieked, a sound that resonated across multiple frequencies simultaneously as its cohesion further deteriorated. Calibration complete, Kata announced, initiating pulse in 10 seconds. Brace yourselves, there will be temporal feedback. King Vegeta moved to Goku's side, both of them falling back toward the power core as the remaining enforcers pressed forward, sensing the imminent threat. 5 seconds, Kata continued. 4, 3, the lead enforcer, its form still unstable from the backwash, made a desperate lunge toward them. This isn't over, Guardian. The convergence comes for all timelines. 2, 1, pulse activating. The POR core flared with brilliant light as Kata's disruptor technology integrated fully with the palace systems. A wave of precisely calibrated energy expanded outward from the core, passing through conventional matter unimpeded but striking temporal entities with devastating effect. Each enforcer the pulse touched immediately destabilized, their fragmented forms breaking apart completely as the fully tuned energy disrupted the connections between their temporal components. They didn't die in any conventional sense but were forced back into the spaces between timelines, unable to maintain presence in this reality. The lead enforcer held out longest, its more defined structure providing greater resistance. As it finally began to dissolve, it fixed its featureless gaze on Goku. We will meet again, Guardian, it promised. In the final timeline, the only timeline. Then it too dissipated, leaving behind only residual temporal energy that quickly faded. Silence fell over the core chamber, broken only by the humming of the reactor and their measured breathing. After a moment, confirmation came through the palace communication system. The pulse had succeeded throughout the complex. All temporal invaders had been neutralized. King Vegeta straightened, royal dignity reasserting itself now that immediate danger had passed. He regarded Goku with new respect. It seems, he said carefully, that we owe you a debt. Warrior. Though I still do not fully understand what you are or where you come from. Before Goku could respond, the chamber's entrance slid open once more. A figure stepped through, younger than the king but bearing an unmistakable resemblance. Prince Vegeta of this timeline, his armor scorched from recent battle, his expression a mixture of relief and suspicion. Father, he acknowledged, then noticed the others present. Director Kata, and his eyes narrowed as he studied Goku, recognition flickering in his gaze. Interesting. The temporal anomaly has a familiar face. You're unharmed, King Vegeta observed, a father's relief momentarily visible beneath the monarch's composure. Of course, the prince replied with characteristic pride. Though he Eastern Quadrant faced similar attackers. They were challenging. He focused on Kata's disruptor, still connected to the core interface. Your technology proved effective, Director. The palace guard reports similar entities throughout the capital have been neutralized. The pulse extended beyond the palace perimeter. Kata asked, impressed despite herself. Throughout the governmental district, Prince Vegeta confirmed. He turned his attention to Goku once more. Now perhaps someone will explain why our visitor bears such a striking resemblance to a third-class Saiyan sent off-world decades ago. The question hung in the air, bringing them back to the fundamental mystery of Goku's presence. King Vegeta studied his son, then Goku, his expression thoughtful. An excellent question, he agreed. One that deserves a comprehensive answer, considering the service rendered today. His eyes narrowed slightly. In the royal chambers, I think. Away from potential listening devices. The implication was clear. Whatever explanation followed would have significant implications for Saiyan society, best discussed in absolute privacy. After we've confirmed the threat is truly neutralized, Goku suggested. These enforcers were just the first wave. The syndicate won't give up so easily. Agreed, Kata said, disconnecting her equipment from the interface. We should verify the research facility is secure as well. The temporal technology there could be devastating in the wrong hands. King Vegeta considered this, then nodded sharply. Prince Vegeta will oversee palace security restoration. Director Kata, you and our visitor will assess the research facility's status, then return for a full briefing. His tone hardened slightly. A complete briefing. The order was clear. Goku inclined his head in acknowledgement. Of course, Your Majesty. As they prepared to depart, Prince Vegeta approached Goku directly, studying him with the analytical intensity so characteristic of the Vegeta he had known. You fight like no Saiyan I've ever seen, the prince observed quietly. Yet your energy signature contains Saiyan elements. A mystery worth solving. All mysteries have their time. Goku replied with a small smile. Some just take longer than others. The prince's expression suggested he found the answer unsatisfying but was willing to wait for proper explanation. With a curt nod to both Goku and Kata, he departed to carry out his father's orders. Once they were alone in the corridor outside the court chamber, Kata turned to Goku. They'll demand answers. Full disclosure about the multiverse. The Guardian, all of it. I know, Goku acknowledged. The question is how much they should know. Knowledge of alternate timelines can be destabilizing. Kata's expression hardened. My people just fought entities from beyond their reality. They deserve to understand what they're facing. The statement was simple but carried weight. Goku studied her, the determination in her stance, the intelligence in her eyes, the commitment to her people's welfare. Guardian protocols advised caution, but his instincts suggested something else. You're right, he decided. But first, let's make sure the research facility is secure. I'd rather not have to fight another wave of enforcers today. Agreed, Kata said, activating her communicator to arrange transport. As she spoke with facility security, Goku extended his senses outward, searching for any remaining temporal anomalies. The attack appeared to have been contained for now, but one question lingered in his mind. Why this specific timeline? What made a reality where planet Vegeta survived so valuable to the Chronos Syndicate? The answer, he suspected, lay not just in Saiyan genetics but in whatever Kata's research facility had been developing. The temporal technology that had drawn his attention in the first place now seemed central to a much larger conflict. As they departed the palace under heavy guard, Goku glanced back at the imposing structure, a symbol of a Saiyan civilization that had flourished rather than been nearly extinguished. Despite the danger, he couldn't help feeling a connection to this world that might have been his heritage in another life. The Guardian's duty was to protect all timelines equally, without preference or attachment. But standing on the soil of his ancestral homeworld, beside a Saiyan woman whose determination reminded him so much of the friends he'd left behind, Goku wondered if complete detachment was truly possible, or even desirable. Some questions had no easy answers. But finding those answers was now part of his responsibility as Time's Guardian. Chapter 2 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.